Now, you've heard the term narcissist thrown around quite a bit. And are you wondering, are you a narcissist? Some people actually say, what's the difference between being a narcissist and just having self care and taking care of yourself? I mean, you're supposed to be taking care of yourself, right? You're supposed to be loving yourself. So if you do that, does that make you a narcissist? Okay, so all of those questions are going to be answered right here in this video. So the first sign that you might be a narcissist is that you're a terrible listener. You only want to hear anything about yourself. You don't want to hear anything about anyone else. In fact, even if you ask somebody something about themselves or ask them to tell you a story or ask them what's going on, halfway through them telling you, you find yourself, your mind is drifting. You really don't care what their answer is. You really don't care what they have to say. And you either have to force yourself to pretend like you care and pretend like you're paying attention, or maybe you just look the other way. Maybe you just start looking at your phone. Maybe you even just walk away when they're mid-sentence. If you're having a conversation with someone that is important to you, maybe it's a spouse or a significant other, and you want to talk about something that is a big decision or something that you're supposed to be making a choice about together, do you really care about what the other person's input is? Do you really care what they want to do? Do you really care what their concerns are? Do you find yourself wanting to dismiss what they have to say? Do you find yourself negating what they have to say? Do you find yourself judging everything that they have to say? Do you find yourself thinking that everything they have to say is invalid? Maybe just ignore everything they have to say. Or maybe you find yourself, the whole time they're speaking, getting ready to just jump in to explain what you have to say without even listening to what their points are. Or maybe the whole time they're talking, you're just thinking that you want to insert the word but so that you can get back to what your thoughts are and what you've already decided is the best way to go. Sign number 2 is that sorry is really the hardest word, that you just have a really hard time apologizing, or maybe you have a really hard time taking responsibility for your actions. You just don't want to apologize. Maybe you just don't ever think that you're wrong. Maybe, you're just always looking for the scapegoat. You're thinking it's always somebody else's fault that something happened. Even if you screwed up at work, there was some other reason for it. Somebody else didn't do what they were supposed to do, or you're just always looking for a way to deflect it off of you. Even if you do know that you were the one that was wrong, you're just looking for a way to deflect it off of you. Maybe you're deflecting it back onto the person that you did something to, by blaming them. Let's say even if you cheated on that person, you can't say you're sorry. You can't find it in your heart to apologize. Maybe you just you push it back onto the other person and you say, well, it was your fault that I cheated because of whatever reason. So number 2 is sorry seems to be the hardest word. You have a very hard time apologizing or taking responsibility for your actions. Or if you do apologize, you know that you're only apologizing, or you're only in your mind apologizing because it will manipulate the other person and get the other person to do what you want them to do, or act the way you want them to, or come back to giving you the adulation and treating you with the value that you think that you should be treated. So sometimes you apologize, but it's highly manipulative and not because you actually feel sorry or any sense of remorse. If you think this is you, or you know somebody who's like this, then give me an amen in the comments. Number 3 is, do you struggle to feel the emotions of others? Do you struggle to feel the needs of other people? Do you feel like, you see them, but you really don't understand them? You're not, what their needs are and what their emotions are really doesn't register with you. Do you find that you're watching them be upset, but it doesn't, either you're annoyed by it, or even angered by it because it's taking attention away from you? and you just really can't put yourself in their shoes and feel their emotions. You can't feel their sadness. Maybe when somebody's upset over the death of someone, you know that you're supposed to say that you're sorry and you're sending prayers or you're sending hugs or something, but you actually don't really feel anything for those people, or you don't really necessarily feel their pain. The only really pain that you feel on a normal basis is your own, and you're just filtering everything through, what can I get out of this? What's the best thing for me? How do I get attention out of this? How can I get adulation from this? Rather than looking to see how can I serve the needs of others or help others or feel others' pain, um, or actually feel their sadness. If you just can't, as much as you know that in the back of your mind that other people must feel that thing for other people, you just don't feel that. And the next one is that you require constant admiration from others. So if you feel that you constantly need other people to think that you're amazing, think that you're wonderful, and if they don't think that you're the smartest person in the room, or they don't see that you're special, that you're valuable, you actually feel angered by that. You actually resent them for that. And you feel like if they're not for you, then they must be against you. And so you feel like you have to retaliate against them for being against you. You have to show the world that this person has no value because they don't see the value in you. You take things very, very personally. You're extremely sensitive. Even if somebody disagrees with your opinion at a dinner table, maybe they disagree with your politics, then suddenly that person, there must be something seriously wrong with them, and they have to be judged, and they have to be devalued and debased and destroyed, maybe even destroyed, because they didn't see how amazing you were. They don't understand how intelligent you are. They don't think that your opinion is the most important one. And because of that, then they must be against you. And so if you feel that way, then you might also be a narcissist. Another sign that you might be a narcissist is that you exaggerate your own talents or your accomplishments. So, maybe you've lied, or you've cheated to get where you are. Maybe you've lied about what kinds of job experience you have. Maybe you've lied about the people that you've dated, or the types of people that you've worked with, or the types of clients that you've had. Or maybe you're lying about the amount of money that you have. You are exaggerating your talents, you're exaggerating your accomplishments, you're exaggerating the things that you've done because you want people to think that you're incredible. But you know that deep down inside it's a lie. You know that deep down inside that it's not true, but you have this kind of cover up of the world because it's really, really important to you that everybody thinks that you're the most talented, the most beautiful, the most rich, or the most successful, and that you're getting lots of attention for that. If this describes you, then you may also be a narcissist. So those are just some of the signs of being a narcissist. If you have some or most of these signs, then hate to tell you, but you may be a narcissist.
You're going to know four things that narcissists actually care about. Yeah, there's actually four. I'm going to give you the number one thing that narcissists actually care about at the end. We're going to go from number four to number one. Yeah, there's actually four things that they actually care about. They're all wrapped up in narcissistic supply. Supply is anything that feeds their ego. So supply is the really kind of the one thing that they're all kind of after, and that's their food, their lifeblood, their oxygen. They're like kind of going after that one thing all the time. They crave that in order to feel good about themselves. It's like that external thing. There's almost like a black hole inside of them that can never be filled, and you might want to fill it for them, and they want you to fill it too. And so what happens is you're left feeling totally and utterly depleted, yet they're still starving in a lot of ways. So, but there's different forms of narcissistic supply. All right. And that's what I'm going to go over here. So we're going to go from number 4 all the way up to number 1. All right. So number 4 is really themselves. At the end of the day, they really just care about themselves. I mean, they may sit there and tell you they love you or they care about you, or if it's a business partner, even as a family member, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, it's almost like somebody who is in full on survival mode all the time, or almost like somebody who has like a really bad toothache or they're really in pain or something. They may want to care about you, but they can't, because all they can do is see their own pain or feel their own thing that's going on. I mean, they just can't right now. That's why they really just don't have empathy or care for somebody else, because they just can't at that moment. So number 1 is they just only care about themselves. Number 2, or if we're working our way backwards, number 4, and we're going to number 3, is their stuff, their possessions, their things, which, by the way, you are one of. You are a possession. So they care about you in the sense that you are a possession to them. You're just like almost like a jar on a shelf. And, they want to kind of take you down and use whatever supply they can get out of you, if they still can. That's why they kind of move on to a better form if, there's not much left that they can get out of you, or they pick the bones off the carcass or the meat off the bones. And if there's nothing left, they go to get another source. Possessions is number 2, that their stuff, their things, don't touch my things and thing, I mean, they hoard things. They hoard whatever they can. They hoard money. And I have a whole video on why narcissists hoard money. Definitely check that out. But they hoard things. They're very scarcity minded. They have a very scarcity mentality, not an abundance mentality at all. Number 3, or number 2, if we're working our way backwards, 4, 3, 2, we're working our way up to number 1, is power. Power is something that they actually care about, very much so. Control, power, their kingdom, especially the ones that are very successful. They have big kingdoms and they will protect their little kingdoms, and they don't really go out of their realm of their kingdom that often, because they want to stick within the kingdom that they have built. And that's why they're so driven to success, to have and create kingdoms, because they want to make sure that they create a kingdom that they can control. So having power, having that control over people, and they degrade people, they debase people, they do that sort of thing, they diminish people, in order to maintain that power, to maintain that control. So that's number 2, if we're working our way up to number 1, which we are. And it is so time for you to slay. Slay is the name of my program. Strategy, leverage, anticipate, focus on you. And it is time for you to slay. And I want you to put that in the comments right now. It is time to slay. It is time to slay. Put that in the comments right now. Time to slay. We are working our way up to number 1. The number 1 thing that narcissists actually care about: their image, how they look. That's everything to them. They will protect and defend that at any cost. Any cost. That's the only thing they really, really care about. How they look to the world, how they look to their new form of supply, how they look to the best form of supply, how they look to people that they respect. Image is absolutely everything to a narcissist. Everything. They're literally obsessed with their image, having the right friends, the best houses, the best cars, most prestigious jobs, all of that sort of thing is absolutely the most important thing to a Narcissist image. Number one.
So let's talk about narcissists and their seven deadly sins. One of the things that you should know is that narcissism is a legit personality disorder, and it causes people to have no sense of inner value, zero sense of inner value. They have to get all of their value from the external, and it causes them to have a complete lack of empathy or care for anyone else. There's just something that's broken inside of them that they just can't. They can't feel a capacity of care for the other person. So understand that there are three different types of narcissists in general, which are the covert narcissist, which I call the wolf in sheep's clothing. That's the one that I was actually a victim of two of them, not husbands, but people in my life. And so I have my own serious disdain for covert narcissists. But these are the people that look really nice. They appear to be wonderful, kind, good people. Oftentimes they're psychologists or lawyers or doctors or clergy or people who have a lot of respect in the community. So that's covert narcissist. The second type of narcissist is your grandiose or overt narcissist, is sometimes what they're called. And that's more of what I call the garden variety narcissist, the one that you normally think of when you think of narcissists. That's the kind that goes around telling everybody how great they are all the time. And the funny thing for me is that when I discovered that the two people that I was dealing with were covert narcissists, when it was brought up to me that that's what they were, I thought, oh no, I don't think they're narcissists. I think they might be insecure. But that's because they're covert. The overt or grandiose narcissist goes around telling everybody how great they are. They're very boastful, braggadocious. They really stand out as narcissists, and people will often say, oh, they're narcissists, which to me, those people are actually less insidious than the coverts because you can see them coming a mile away. The third type of narcissist is what we call the malignant narcissist. And this is a type that can tend to be pretty dangerous and really pretty evil. This is the kind that might tend to engage in stalking or violence or threats of violence or something like that, or they have no problem, calling the police and falsely accusing people of horrible things like child molestation when they know for sure that that's a complete lie. That's just so evil and awful. And that's a malignant narcissist. And you can have different types of narcissists that are in combination as well. Like you can have a malignant covert narcissist, that sort of thing. So those are the three types. So now let's talk about the seven deadly sins. So the first deadly sin is shamelessness. Narcissists are openly and proudly shameless, especially the grandiose and the malignant type. They're not bound by the emotional needs of others, so they're just shameless in the kinds of things that they go after. And actually, let me amend that and just say I've seen covert narcissists be shameless in the kinds of things that they think that they're entitled to as well, and that they'll go right after. They loathe criticism. They consider criticism to be toxic, and any hint, smell, whistle, tone of criticism, they will take very, very personally, because it implies that they're not perfect and need to change. Number two is magical thinking. Narcissists want to project that they are perfect, and so they distort everything through that lens. And so part of this magical thinking piece is they project their faults and flaws through others. This is part of the whole gaslighting thing. So if you say, hey, you dropped the ball on that deadline to a coworker or an employee, then they're always going to have some excuse as to why it was somebody else's fault. Number three is arrogance. They are extremely arrogant, and oftentimes they have to feel like they need to inflate their ego by deflating others. So this is where you will see them deflating, devaluing, degrading, cutting down others, because they need to feel like they are superior to everyone else. Number four is envy. Oh my goodness. Narcissists are so envious of everyone else, and they're envious in every possible way. Life is just not fair for the narcissist. So if someone else has more money than they do, has a better position than they do, got something that they didn't, got attention that they didn't receive, even if it has nothing to do with them, absolutely nothing to do with them at all, and most of the time it doesn't, they are extremely jealous of other people. So this is where you'll find them, maybe devaluing somebody else's contribution, or not valuing it at all, or poo-pooing it, or saying that it really didn't matter, or it didn't actually contribute to anything. They're contemptuous and minimize other people's accomplishments. And they're so jealous of them that they just constantly want to bring them down. Number 5 is entitlement. Narcissists hold an unreasonable expectation of special treatment. They think that they should get the best parking spaces, or the best places in the restaurant, or they shouldn't have to wait for anything. They think, that everyone should see them as entitled and special, and if you don't fall in line with that, then you're going to be subject to their ire. Failure to comply with this entitlement piece is considered to be an attack, because with a narcissist, you're either for them or you're against them. You can't just be neutral. You can't just walk away from each other like two normal people, or just decide you don't want to work together anymore, or you just don't want to be in a relationship anymore. You can't just wish each other well and move forward. No. Can't work that way. You're either for them or it's an attack on them. And defiance of their will is something that inflames their narcissistic injury, which will trigger their narcissistic rage. If you have seen any of these deadly sins so far, give me a "I've seen it" in the comments. Number 6 is exploitation. And what this means is that narcissists will use people for whatever they need to use them for. They exploit others. So the thing about narcissists that you have to remember is that you really have no value to a narcissist other than what you can bring to them. Narcissists need an endless amount of what we call supply. And supply can be negative or it could be positive. And what I mean by that, because really no supply is good in a sense, but what I mean by that is that narcissistic supply is anything that feeds their ego. So it could be, having the biggest house, the biggest job, the biggest bank account, the best friends, the most high in the highest places, the most recognition, things like that. But narcissistic supply can also come in the form of treating people badly, degrading, debasing, cutting people down, some of the other deadly sins that we just talked about. So once you decide you don't want to be in a relationship with a narcissist anymore, then you no longer have any value to them. And as I said before, you're either for them or you're against them, because they're exploiting you, they're using you. So this can take many different forms, but exploiting others always involves using others without any regard for their feelings or interests. And number 7, drumroll please, number 7 is no boundaries. Narcissists have no boundaries. That's part of being a narcissist. And the interesting thing, I always think about boundaries, because I've had to deal with this with the covert narcissists that were in my life, is that you're supposed to respect their boundaries. They don't have to respect yours. That's how that goes. And so, they'll show up at your work, they'll show up at your office, they'll break into your computer, they'll read your email, they'll read your mail, whatever they feel entitled to do. That's part of the entitlement as well. And this is where, if you're talking about a malignant narcissist, you might see stalking. So there's one particular trait that everybody overlooks, but there are several traits that everybody knows about with narcissists. So I'm going to just go through the ones that everybody knows about, the ones that they think of when they think of narcissists, and then at the end, I'm going to let you know what the one is that everybody overlooks when they look at traits of narcissism. Number one, shamelessness. So narcissists tend to be openly shameless. Like they'll just go and do whatever they want. I mean, there's just certain things that narcissists do that I just am so surprised by. You know, I knew a narcissist one time who would just come into our law office and just come right behind the desk and come right into one of our offices and not even ask. And, you know, I find myself with narcissists sometimes thinking, wow, I would never do that. I mean, there's just certain things that I would never do that narcissists end up doing. So, but they're just completely shameless in that way. So another trait of narcissism is entitlement. So they feel entitled to anything. They think that they should have the best seat in the house, the best restaurant, the best this, the best that. They should have the best spot in you know, a show or something. If they're in a show, you know, whatever it is, they should be the best. They should have the best. And, you know, even if they're not entitled to it, even if it's not something that they earned or something that they're even qualified for, they don't care about that. It's just like they should have it. So entitlement and also shamelessness, they're kind of like two little hands that fit together, but you know, slightly different, but definitely they're shameless and they feel entitled. So the next one is magical thinking. This is where they just keep going. They don't even look at the path of destruction that they've created. They don't really care. They just imagine the world and look at the world and interact with the world in the way that they want to see it. So it can really definitely be difficult when you're negotiating with a narcissist in that sense, and because, you know, you give an offer, they come back with a counter offer, you go back with an offer that incorporates some of the things that they've already, you know, agreed to, and now all of a sudden they say they never agreed to that, and that sort of thing. It's all this magical thinking. It's part of the gaslighting, and it's just how they think. They just live in their own form of reality. Another trait that they have is envy. They're often very jealous of people. They're very jealous of other people's accomplishments. They can't really congratulate people or be happy for people. They feel like life isn't fair. How come they got it? I should have it. They don't really like when somebody else is getting attention that they feel like they should have. They're just very, very jealous. Sometimes they're jealous of people that they don't even know. Like they'll be watching something on TV and think, oh, why does that person have that? And why does, you know, who do they think they are? You know, I mean, they're just jealous and envious in all different facets, including, of course, in their own personal relationships. It comes from this place of lack. They are not abundance thinkers. They are scarcity thinkers. So, you know, if anybody has anything else, they don't think that, oh, I could do that too, or I could have that too, or how great for them. You know, that's their thing. That's something that's wonderful for them. It has nothing to do with me. They definitely do not think that way. It's very much a jealous, envious, small-minded way of thinking. And if you are so ready to move on and create a new life, give me a so ready in the comments. Okay, so the next one, and we're leading up to the one that most people overlook, is exploitation. They're users. They like to use people. Every single person is looked upon as, what can I use? What can I get? You know, why am I even going to be talking to you at all? They're always sizing people up to see if they are going to be a good form of supply for them. And if you want to know more about narcissistic supply, check out my video on narcissistic supply. But supply is anything that feeds their ego, and you definitely are going to be looked upon by a narcissist in terms of what can you do for them. It's never reciprocated, by the way. It's like, just to be in their space at all, you better be doing something for them. And if you want something out of them, then you better be ready to reciprocate like 100,000-fold. And even that's not good enough. Like, you're supposed to do it all for them. And the next one that you normally hear about is lack of boundaries. And that is, narcissists just do whatever they think they want. They just go wherever they want. They look through people's stuff. They will open people's mail. They will go into people's closets. They will show up places that they're not supposed to show up. They have no boundaries because they feel entitled, and it all kind of gels together into a toxic stew of yuck. But that's one of the things that they also have, is no boundaries. But the last one is the one that's most overlooked, and that is that narcissists have no sense of self. They feel very small inside. That's the not so secret. They feel inside like nothing. They have a very fragile sense of self. So all of those other traits, the ones that people see, the ones that people identify with the most, the ones that they use, that psychologists and psychiatrists use to determine if somebody's actually narcissistic, are actually all things that they layer on so that they can hide the fact that they have no sense of self themselves. And so they make it look like the Wizard of Oz, and they build all this stuff around them to hide the fact that they are feeble, small, scared, and that you are actually the stronger one. And that's the thing that I really want you to understand when you're negotiating with them. You actually, the biggest scam in the world is that they have you thinking that you're the one who's weaker. They're actually the weaker ones.
So I've had to deal with narcissists. I know how horrible it can be. And specifically, I actually have had to deal with a couple of covert narcissists. And that is something that you really see a lot of mirroring in, especially with the coverts. I mean, all narcissists, they don't have any sense of self. They don't have any sense of self inside. They don't have any sense of real value inside. They kind of pick up these traits of other people wherever they go. So they kind of are almost like chameleons. And that's why at the beginning, they really seem fabulous. They seem like your soulmate. They seem perfect. And that's because they have this ability to kind of become this carbon copy of you. At the beginning, it seems great. And you think you've found this perfect person. But and then it becomes kind of weird in some ways. And they do use this technique that is very, very manipulative, because they've been studying people. The way that they have this chameleon technique, the way they know how to manipulate people so well, is because they know how to read people, they study people to become the perfect person. But it's this fake routine. It's this double life that they lead because, inside they're empty, they have nothing going on. Outside is this shell of a person. And by the way, I do have a whole video on why narcissists lead double lives, which you can definitely check out. And so they have this technique that involves mimicking other people's body language, other people's mannerisms and words in order to create an emotional bond with someone. It's their technique of love bombing you in a way. It's their technique of gaining control over you. It's a way for them to eventually manipulate you and continue to be able to manipulate you. They use it over and over again, because even if they start to feel like their control is slipping, once they lose control over you a little bit, you're onto them, you catch them in a lie or something like that, then they need to future fake you, or they need to project or deflect or whatever. It's always this constant game with them. You would think that it would be kind of exhausting for them, but they have to do whatever they need to do. So then they go back to the love bombing, or they go back to the future faking, or whatever. It's this constant thing. And so they have to go back to doing these sorts of things. And I wrote this down, that mirroring was this term that was actually coined by Sigmund Freud back in the day, that he used it to describe a way in which people used to their own self-image as a model for how they believed that other people would see them. So, for example, if someone felt like they were attractive, they would often, try to be more attractive around other people by being that way too. So it was like they would mirror how other people were by being the same as the other person, the way the other person was. And I have found that so much with the coverts in my life. There was one particular covert that was in our family. My husband was like always annoyed because this particular person would like finish sentences. And oftentimes it wasn't even the way he would want to finish the sentence. And he would find it really, really annoying. You can find out more about covert passive aggressive narcissists in my video on that topic if you'd like. The other covert narcissist in my life would oftentimes just copy everything that I would do and try to steal my ideas. I mean, a lot of times covert narcissists are sort of inherently lazy. So they would just sort of let you do all the work and try to take your ideas and pass it off as their own. So that happens sometimes too, but that's sort of something else that they do as well. But why they mirror you oftentimes is because they think that it's a way to sort of love bomb you. They think that it's a way to make them look more attractive to you, so that they will eventually be able to manipulate you, a way that they will eventually be able to control you. And interestingly enough, when I would tell people sometimes, some of the coverts in my life would actually copy the way that I dressed, copy the way that I would talk, the way that I would look. And if I would tell people about it, sometimes they would say, "Oh, isn't that flattering?" I mean, it was sort of stalking in a way, sort of a little bit weird. And I would find it not flattering. I would find it really strange. If you think it's super weird, if you agree with me, just give me an agree in the chat. And I would also love to know what some of the ways that you have found that narcissists have mirrored you guys in the chat as well. Put that just in the comments below also. I'm just curious to know. So anyway, that is why narcissists tend to mirror you. And in negotiations, you may see this happening as well, because they're going to continue to do whatever they were doing in the past in negotiations, because they've got their arsenal of tools, and that's what they're going to continue to rely on even in the negotiations. So some of the things that they were doing in the past, you may see them continuing to do in the negotiations too. Okay, so 5 traits of extremely toxic people. I've seen them myself. I've seen them punch walls. I've seen them do all kinds of crazy things, and I can spot them a mile away. And I want you to be able to spot them a mile away. So make sure you watch all the way till the end, because I'm going to be giving you each one of them, and I'm going to save the best one till the end. All right. So, number 5 trait of extremely toxic people is they never take responsibility for their actions. It's always project and deflect. Project and deflect. It's always someone else's fault, right? It's always someone else. It's never their fault. And boy, have I seen this. They're so good at making it someone else's fault, making sure that someone else gets to take the blame. And, this is something you definitely see a lot with narcissists, especially when they get caught in lies. And I definitely have a video on that. What happens when you catch a narcissist in a lie? They project and deflect. It's someone else's fault. And they never take responsibility for their actions. And part of the reason why you see narcissists never take responsibility for their actions is because they have that fragile inner sense of self, that fragile sense of inner child, inner self, which is like if they take responsibility somehow for themselves, then it takes away from who they are. Then it takes away from, somehow they fall apart. Somehow they don't survive. Somehow there's like that hollow inner self, and they literally become unglued. They literally become triggered. That inner sense of self is so fragile that they have to push it off on other people. They don't feel whole, they don't feel complete. And so that's why they never take responsibility for their actions. That's the first trait of extremely toxic people. So if you have one of those people around you that just never takes responsibility, then run for the hills. Number 4 is people who are very critical, always making you wrong, always making you feel like you're small, always making you feel like you are to blame for their problems. It's always you. You are the problem. You're the one. It's never their fault. It's never them. They don't have to ever take responsibility for anything that they do, and you're the one that triggers them. You're the one who has the problem. They're very critical, extremely judgmental of everything around them. They don't like anyone. If that's how they are, there's something very wrong. But they're always making you feel small, you feel bad. And if you're around them and you are constantly feeling small and bad, then you know that they're probably extremely toxic. You want to be around people that when you walk away from them, you feel lighter, you feel better. They're fanning your flames. You feel like, I just want to be around that person more because they make me feel really great every time I'm around them. All right. So that's number 4. Number 3 is a person who is always making themselves out to be a victim. That's the third type of person who's extremely toxic. Have you ever been around this type of a person? They're just constantly a victim. They're constantly, everything is woe is me. Everything is bad. No matter how much it seems like their life is great, they're just always a victim. Covert narcissists are really, really great at that. And if you want to know more about covert narcissists, I definitely have a video about covert narcissists, about especially covert narcissism in relationships, and you should definitely check that out. All right. So that's number 3. And if you guys have seen this so far, give me a totally in the comments. So that's number 3. Number two, this is where the person is just always talking bad about other people. This is that one who's just like constantly talking bad about other people behind their backs. And you just know they're definitely talking bad about you too. I mean, if they're talking bad about other people to you, they're talking bad about you when they're with other people too. I mean, that's just how people are. And so that's just a trait of an extremely toxic person. People who feel good about people don't do that. And I go back to the 4 agreements, which is never to take anything personally. This is a book which I highly recommend. It's one of my top reads. And it's 4 agreements that you make with yourself. One of the agreements is to never take anything personally, because people treat other people the way they feel about themselves, good or bad. So if somebody treats other people badly, it's because they feel bad about themselves. Hurt people, right? So if somebody feels good about themselves, then they treat other people well. If somebody feels like crap about themselves, then they treat other people poorly. And so people who talk badly about other people, it's just somebody who just feels toxic inside. So they just are toxic person in general. And that's just not the type of person that you really want to spend your time with. There's an old saying that says, if you really want to know where you are in life, take a look around and see who the top 5 people are in your life. And that'll tell you where you are in life and what kinds of a quality of where you are in life. So you want to make sure that the top people in your life are super quality people. I always say defend your light with your life and make sure that the people who are closest to you are people who you really want to defend your spirit and defend your light. Right. So that's number 2. And number 1, the number 1 most toxic person in the world, people who lie, people who don't have integrity, right? Liars, 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 pants on fire. People who don't have integrity. Without integrity, nothing works. People who lie. And those narcissists, they are pathological liars. They lie about everything. They lie about things they don't even need to lie about, which is the crazy thing to me. And that's where you end up getting your leverage, by the way. That's where you end up being able to create your patterns, create your strategy, all that good stuff for your cases, for your negotiations. Okay, so let's talk about the 5 things that narcissists actually enjoy. Like they're so sick that normal people, healthy people, they don't enjoy. In order to understand this, you have to understand one thing. Normal, healthy people are motivated by lots and lots of different things. We can be motivated and incentivized by, geez, we have a love for our children, or we want to help homeless people, or we want to do a good job at our work, or we want to make money. There may be a variety of things that we want to do. We can be motivated and incentivized by a lot of different things in our lives at the same time. Narcissists are motivated by one thing and one thing only. They are motivated by narcissistic supply. And that's it. It's like if you think about a person who is drowning, at that time, they're only going to be motivated by one thing. They're going to be motivated by, I need air. I need to be able to breathe. I need to get out of this pool or whatever it is. And that's kind of how they feel in a sense. It's constant survival for them. And so that's why in a way they can't think about anybody else but themselves. And that's why they kind of feel like they have to push other people down, because it's like, oh, let me step on somebody else's head in order to get out of this pool so that I can survive. And you kind of have to think of it sort of like that in a way, because somehow many, many years ago when they were children, they were traumatized or something happened to them that made them believe that in order for them to survive, other people can't. And so they need this narcissistic supply. They have no inner sense of value. So they've got to layer on anything externally that they can in order to try to grasp some sort of sense of value. So that's what's really going on with them. And there are some hierarchies of narcissistic supply. And that's how we do create that leverage. I mean, there's how they look. And then there's that, what I call the dark underbelly of narcissistic supply, which is devaluing people and making them squirm and all those sorts of things. So what narcissists do enjoy that other people don't necessarily enjoy is, kind of like that hidden dark underbelly side, because that hierarchy, that higher side of narcissistic supply, one that's in view of the world, other people do, probably enjoy, which is, the adulation, looking good. Of course, everybody wants to look good. Everybody enjoys getting compliments. Everybody enjoys nice things in life, so that hierarchy, that high side, that the side that's exposed to the world is probably, everybody probably enjoys those things. It's nice to have a nice home. It's nice to, but they need that stuff. They need it to breathe. It's, supply is it's their food, it's their oxygen, it's their lifeblood. For a normal, healthy person, they don't need that stuff to breathe. They don't need it. It's like, it's nice to have a nice compliment. It's nice to have, those things, but I don't need it in order to survive. And that's the difference. So things that they enjoy that normal people don't is, number one, watching you squirm, and that's why the negotiations never end, because they enjoy watching you squirm. They enjoy that process of watching you be intimidated. They like that. So that's number one. Number two is gaining that power over you, being better than you, seeing you be hurt. They like that. They like that pushing you down, watching the flying monkeys line up on your side and making you feel small. They like that because they feel small. So they want to try to make you feel small. They enjoy that. Oh, create an event and everybody's going to be invited and you're not. They like that. I mean, it's a horrible thing. Normal people would never want to do that, would never want to hurt somebody else. When I was dealing with narcissists in my life, I remember how many times out of my mouth did I say, oh my God, I would never do that. I would never even think of doing something like that. I remember saying that so many times, but narcissists do those kinds of things on a regular basis to hurt people. One of the things that I found that narcissists also like to do is hurt you so that they can turn around and be your savior and kind of comfort you. That's also a really sick thing. Like, let me hurt you so that then I can be there for you. That's a really, really weird thing. I've noticed that in some of the relationships that I've observed when I was representing people in their divorces, even physically sometimes, where people would be abusive. And then they actually got to be the one to comfort that person and then be needed by that person. That's a really, really sick cycle of abuse right there. Very, very sick. And if you are in an abusive relationship, please, please, please reach out. Please go to the nearest shelter, call the domestic abuse hotline, please. That's number three. Number four is something else that they enjoy, which is wooing you and seeing you fall into their trap, setting you up. They love to see if you're going to be testing you to see if you're going to be a good victim. I have a whole video on that, how narcissists test you to see if you're going to be a good victim. You should definitely check out my video on that, how narcissists test you. I mean, they're so sick. Do you think they're so sick? Give me a so sick in the comments below. So that's the next one. And then the last one is, once you've walked away and you've finally gotten away, you've finally made it, you finally escaped, they love to see if you've actually escaped. They love to see if they still have control over you. They enjoy the fact that they can boom, little DM into your little inbox over there. And can they hook you? Can they bait you back? Do they still have control over you? Can they get you to come back into the lair? Oh, by the way, heard our song. Did you see this? Or, oh, you look good. whatever, to see if you're still going to be a form of supply for them. So they enjoy having control over you. They enjoy having power over you. They enjoy having you be a source of supply for them. That's the bottom line. That's something that narcissists enjoy that normal, healthy people don't. They enjoy all of those things, and it's super sick, but they're not mentally healthy people, and that's the bottom line. And so if you're negotiating with them, you can't think of them as mentally healthy people, and you can't interact with them in that way. You have to come at them and come to the negotiation from a different perspective. Okay, so narcissists and their money. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I mean, they talk about narcissists and fools and their money and how they're never soon parted. And narcissists and their money, my God, you cannot pry narcissists away from their money. Like, it's insanity and their money, especially when it comes to fighting. When the relationship breaks down, whether it's a business relationship, a divorce, or whatever. I mean, talk about prying it out of their cold, dead hands. They hoard their money like no one else. Hoard it and hide it. And why? Why are they like that? I mean, they are so cheap. Why are they like that? Well, I mean, there are so many reasons. For one thing, you have to understand the personality type. So let me explain the personality type. You have to picture somebody who is completely and totally empty inside. This is a person who is basically starving, gasping for breath, desperate for air. This is a person who's basically like starving and in survival mode all the time. You have to picture a person who has like a black hole inside of them, and they want you to fill it, and you might want to fill it too, but they can't receive. So you're left feeling depleted, and yet they're still starving. And so you're feeling totally and completely empty and depleted, and yet they're still starving and wanting more and more and more, because there's this black hole, because they can't receive. Okay, so that's why they're in survival mode all the time, and it cannot be fixed. And so it's scarcity to the utmost extreme, and that's how they feel. Okay, and you can't fix it. You cannot fix it. They're like vultures needing an endless amount of this narcissistic supply, and they're always searching for more of it and always searching for a better source of it. So money just symbolizes a source of that supply. And remember, they need grandiosity, they feel entitled. And so all of that, represents power. It represents a way of looking like they can be powerful. It also represents control. They can control people through money. So the more they have, the more control they have, the more power they have, and the more they can be powerful over people, the more people adulate them, which they certainly love that. They want more adulation. So the more they have, the more entitled they are, the more people are fawning at their feet. And so obviously that becomes very, very addictive to them, very alluring to them. They want that, and they don't have any empathy for others. So they want more and more and more of this, and they step on whoever they have to get more and more of this. So they're chasing this as much as they possibly can on the way up, a lot of them. So this is one of the reasons that they hoard this, and then they're going to hide this. Now, what happens when the relationship breaks down? Well, you become public enemy number one, of course. I mean, because you're either for them or against them. So when you become public enemy number one, they're going to want to destroy you. So now they're going to try to hide it. They're going to try to hoard it. They're going to use it against you. They're going to want to destroy you with it. And they're going to want to make sure that you don't get any of it. Of course, they don't want to give you any of that money that they earned. They feel entitled to it. They don't think that you should have one single dollar of it. Even if you help them get it, they think that they are entitled to it. I mean, that's just their personality. So that's how they are. And they believe that it belongs to them and that you shouldn't have any of it. You should feel guilty for taking anything from them, and that you should, in fact, feel appreciative for what they earned and what they did for you. And you should be grateful for what they did for you. And that's part of it too. And remember, a lot of narcissists also have a very addictive personality. The more they get, the more they want, the more they have. And so they're trying to hoard it as well. And then the other thing about money is that as they get older, they will lose their looks. It does help with them to have more money because they will have more power. And as they have more power, even though they don't have the looks, they have this power, they have this control, they have all of this money. And so people will want to be with them because they have this money. Narcissists absolutely hate to be alone. And if they have lots and lots of money, people will still want to be with them. It helps with that as well, because they will not have as much with the looks. So people will still want to be around them. And because they don't feel like people will ever want to be with them just for them. So they feel like they have to have some reason that somebody's going to want to be with them. So they feel like people will only want to be with them if they have money or power. And so they need money so that somebody's going to want to be with them for that when they get older, or they need to have looks or something. So money will give them the ticket for people to want to be with them when they get older, because they're going to lose their looks or something like that. So they feel like if they have lots and lots of money and control and power when they get older, that people will want to be with them. So those are some reasons that narcissists hoard their money. They just feel like it's a way for them to have whatever it is that they want in their life. It's their ticket to get people to do things, to get people to adulate them, to have control over people. So of course, it's their ticket for control and power and everything that they want in life, because they feel totally and completely empty inside. So it gives them that external sense of value. So that's why they hoard it. A number of different reasons.
So, you know, those of you who have watched my videos know that I've talked ad nauseum and read my books. It's all about the different types of narcissism and how they manifest. It does seem like there's going to be some similarities and differences on the basis of the type of narcissist we're dealing with. Something I've always wanted to bring home to everyone is the type of narcissist someone is often has a lot to do with the kind of day they're having. And by that I mean, any narcissist who's having a good run of it, they're making a lot of money, they got the stuff they want, they're getting the people they want, most importantly, they're getting the validation and the supply they want, more often than not are going to present as grandiose narcissists. Life's going their way. And so, but some people just tend to be more of the grandiose narcissistic type, and that's their baseline, okay? We know that in general, people who are narcissistic have empathy deficits, they're deeply entitled, they're Grandiose narcissists are obviously quite grandiose. They're arrogant. They have a propensity for rage. They do not regulate disappointment well. They're chronically seeking admiration. They're seeking validation. They are superficial, and they are they have not only difficulty regulating their emotions, but they're also incredibly sensitive in the face of criticism. They can dish it out, but they can't take it. The presentation of the grandiose narcissist then becomes someone who really is sort of like that person, that kind of, it can feel sleazy salesman-like, it can be like I am the king of the world-like, it can be I've got all the answers, it can be annoying guy on the bar stool or annoying gal on the bar stool. All of that said, what are the leading tips you have with, especially in a divorce setting, of how to negotiate with a grandiose narcissist?
Well, so the grandiose narcissist is going to do everything they can to keep control of the situation. So the first thing they're going to try to do is try to get rid of your lawyer in some way, because your lawyer is the person who is now between the narcissist and the person who they want to control. And the lawyer now becomes the enemy, because that's the person who's going to actually maybe expose the narcissist for whatever, who or what they are, or maybe be between them and them getting the deal that they want or that they think that they should have. And so they're going to try to get the person to meet at Starbucks. Let's just meet at Starbucks. You know, we don't need lawyers. You know, so that's the thing that they're going to do.
Okay.
And they're going to say your lawyer is just after the money. I've heard that, you know, he or she, whatever it is that they can possibly dream up and say, that's what they're going to say, because they want you to get rid of the lawyer. So this is what I tell people all the time is, you have three choices. You can stay with this person and stay married to them, which I don't recommend.
But I've got, you know me, y'all can read my book, and I got a whole bunch of videos telling you how to stay if you need to stay, because some people have to stay.
Well, I don't recommend in the long run. I mean, if you have to stay for kids or you have reasons or whatever, but in the long run, you probably want to work this person out of your life. Number two is to take exactly what they want you to take with your pat on the head and walk away. But we already talked about that. Even if you choose door number two, it's going to be a shifting thing. It's never going to be exactly, because if they think that you're just taking what they're offering, then they're like, well, maybe I should offer less or whatever, because they just want to mess around with you. And then door number three is, you know, you're going to have to fight up against this person. So, you know, don't have those meetings alone, because you know that this person manipulates you. You know the person's a liar. You know that this person is going to say and do whatever they can to get what they want or to manipulate you. So don't do it. Don't have those conversations. And what I recommend for people to do in those situations is just say, I don't know, I'm just talking to my lawyer. Blame it all on your lawyer. Let your lawyer be the fall person. You know, I don't know, I just want what's fair. I just want, you know, what my rights are, and I'm going to let the lawyer sort it out. That's what I suggest that people do.
So it's, I mean, in all of my work, working with individuals who are experiencing narcissistic abuse or in narcissistic relationships, my consistent, you know, don't move away from a position is realistic expectations and radical acceptance. This person, you, to the point you're now getting a divorce, things have gotten so toxic. And I have to say, in narcissistic relationships, people let things get a lot more toxic than they would in another relationship where they simply grown apart from someone, because you've become so mentally confused. And with a grandiose narcissist, you're so used to being lorded over. You're so confused by the gaslighting. You know, people are, and the grandiose narcissist plays that game really, really well. And you're burned out. So that idea of a Starbucks meeting is like, okay, fine, you're so exhausted. But then I say, realistic expectations, radical acceptance. This is a person who manipulates. It's who they are, it's what they do. It's just like a scorpion stings, a narcissist manipulates. And to have realistic expectations that all of a sudden, now that you filed for divorce, now they're going to become an angel. It's not how it's going to go down.
Oh, in fact, it's the opposite, because you no longer have value to that narcissist. In fact, you're a liability. Because as long as you were still in that narcissist world and they thought that maybe you were for them in some way, or you have some value to them, then they're sort of measured a little bit more. But once you no longer have value, you are now the enemy. And so it is on. And they, you know, I think in a subsequent video, we're going to talk more about all the different kinds of things that they do in a divorce setting. But, you know, once you no longer have value to a narcissist, you are the enemy.
Yeah, and I also have to say too, though, with a grandiose narcissist, what people do need to be prepared for psychologically is, it's not over. Like, they're not just going to start fight. They're actually going to try love bomb sequence 2, love bomb sequence 3, because in some ways it's not that they want you back. They may. A lot of times grandiose narcissists care deeply about what they look like to the world. They want to look like the Christmas card. They want to be the happy family. They have a whole narrative around, I just want to be the happy family. This matters to me. And you know, it's a whole shtick that they're selling to the world. So they want to keep that back, but it's also a game. It's, can I lure the rat out of its hole? Can I bring this person back out? It's what it was from the jump. That's what love bombing is.
So I know how to call that bluff right away.
Which is?
Get them to sign a post-nup right now. Okay, you want me back? I'll come back. Sign a post-nuptial agreement.
That's great. Perfect. Now we know how they're typically going to react.
Of course, they're not going to say yes.
No, they're not going to.
So now you've called their bluff.
That's right. And they play on that vulnerability, and they say, really, a post-nup. So this really was just about money. And that's when the other person, the non-narcissistic person, who's already been so beaten down by this, who's already vulnerable to this, who already has issues around self-doubt, confusion, all the things that happen in narcissistic abuse, says, no, this wasn't about money, and they find themselves getting into the thickets and can often get pulled in. They want to seem noble. No, this was never about money. This was about you treating me with respect. And then I've seen many people at that point get sucked right back in with the grandiose narcissist.
You know what I say to that? What's wrong with it being about money? If you're entitled to it.
Right. And there's the difference between the lawyer and the psychologist.
If you're entitled to it, if the law provides that you're entitled to it, then don't be embarrassed about asking for what the law is providing for you.
But here, this is where I will take a slightly different stance as a psychologist. I think what a lot of people say is that, yes, it's about money. This is a marriage. Marriage is really a contract. Marriage really is a contract. Stop romanticizing it. It's a contract. But marriage is a contract that they are entitled to it. But I do think that people who have been in long-term relationships with grandiose narcissists, it is really about, can you please reflect on what you just did to me for the last 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years? You know what? They'd say, I'd walk away from $10 million.
I have the best story for you with that. The best story. So I was representing a guy who was number 2 in the largest development company in Florida. And, you know, he was one of these narcissistic personality types who came in and, you know, any room in your retainer and whatever. And I was like, no, but, you know, if you want to go on down the road, fine. But so I didn't, but he was trying to get me to reduce my retainer. So we get to mediation, and it's like 9 o'clock at night, and we're all settled on everything, and he's agreed to pay her around $250,000 a year in alimony and he was like 55 years old. So just for easy math, you know, it's at least for the next 10 years, because when you retire at 65, you could potentially ask for a modification. But so we're talking about $2.5 million. Okay. We're getting ready to sign. Mediator comes into my office and says, or to the conference room where I was with my client, and says, I need to talk to you. I have a very unusual request, but I want to run it past you before I run it past your client. So he pulls me aside and says, the wife says that she will waive alimony, waive $2.5 million, if he apologizes to her for how he treated her during the marriage. And guess what? He didn't want to do it.
And there it is. See? So what I'm telling all of you, there it is. You know? So
I made him.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, you will. Get over there. And so he went over there and apologized, and she waived alimony, and that was that. But that was worth more to her.
Right.
And she knew also that he wouldn't want to do it.
Right, and so here's where it's, again, as I'm going to put the psychologist hat on here, which is there is something unsatisfying about that. He didn't want to apologize. It wasn't a real apology. And one thing we do know in the world of narcissism is a narcissist apology is it's worthless. It's less than worthless. It's the gum on your shoe because it's manufactured. It's somebody saying, just for $2.5 million, say sorry. That's not an apology. That's a, you know,
From my perspective as his attorney, I'm like,
right,
all day long.
Exactly.
As her attorney, I'd have been like, you're not asking for that. No way.
Right. And as her psychologist, I say you just bought yourself another 10 years of healing because that wasn't an apology. I think that the struggle becomes, you know, and again, this is where it's interesting to have the lawyer talk to psychologists, is that when the apology feels not authentic, the person says, you know, what was that? And I'll say it was nothing. It was, you know, it was window dressing. It's very difficult for a narcissistic individual to apologize because of the shame factor, because of the insecurity factor, because of the lack of capacity for them to exercise empathy, right? What he does, that client of yours, he doesn't believe he caused her pain.
Right.
He doesn't. He just wanted his money.
Right.
Okay? She was in pain and the other person didn't acknowledge it. It's looking into the mirror that doesn't look back. And that's there, to wit, is the conundrum where I might say, okay, if you know, I would tell somebody, get the money, then at least you can get the therapy. Because,
exactly.
you know, that's,
I mean,
yeah.
Hey, from my perspective as his lawyer, my job was to advocate for him.
Right.
So it wasn't my job to say no to that.
Right.
It was my job to say, get your butt in there and apologize.
Right. Yes.
I mean, you know, because that's the kind of thing that he would have come back to me on later and said, why didn't you make me?
That's right. And exactly, and blame you. But my job is to tell that woman, you didn't get a real apology. What can we learn from this relationship?
I'm sure she probably regretted it.
Maybe, who knows what her financial situation was, you know? Maybe, who knows what I don't know her mindset is, but at the end of the day, I would have said, you know, how do we help you learn from this so you never pick someone like this again? You know, that's really what it is.
Because
how do we learn from this? People do
yeah.
pick. So, you know, just as a twist here, because we do talk about, while the grandiose narcissist is the most common, the one we see the most, there are these other subtypes, what we often call the covert or vulnerable narcissists. This is what I often view as the more victimized narcissist. When you meet them, they're often a little bit more sad, they're softer, they're not as in your face. In fact, a lot of people want to rescue covert narcissists. They're like, if this person just got a break, they'd be fine. What they don't realize is right under the surface is this tremendous amount of contempt.
Yes.
Contempt for other people, contempt that other people have it easier, contempt that life didn't go on, jealousy and envy, and all of these kinds of emotions. And the insecurity in the covert/vulnerable narcissist is much greater.
Yes.
Would you say then, are there any other unique elements of negotiation then that come up with covert narcissists?
Well, so they're not going to be as in your face, and it's not going to be as obvious to the divorce lawyers or to the judge. So the judge might say, oh, this poor person, and fool everybody. And especially because the covert narcissist tends to be more passive aggressive. And so it's easier to explain away the things that they will do, you know, so they might, you know, inadvertently send an email to somebody, oh, oops, it was an accident. And you know that it wasn't an accident because you've been living with this person for years. So they're much more adept at hiding the kinds of things that they're doing. So in my opinion, they're actually more toxic in a lot of ways.
Can be, yeah, absolutely.
Because it's going to be harder to get the system and the people in the system to understand the personality type that you're dealing with. You know, if you're having a parental evaluation or a custody evaluation done, you know, they may fool that psychologist.
Absolutely.
Because they're going to say, oh, I'm such a victim, and you know, this other person was so horrible to me, and I can never catch a break, and you know, I want to work, but I'm so sick all the time, and I always feel terrible. And you know, and so they're actually much more difficult in the divorce setting, and they'll still do the same kinds of things. This triangulation is a biggie with covert narcissists. Let's get the whole world on my side. Let's get everybody to see how much of a victim I am and how horrible this other person is. And they're actually very good at getting the person.
Yes, they are.
Getting people to believe them.
And leaving the person who has been victimized by them looking like a bad guy.
Right.
You know, this person actually has been enduring so much when you've been in a relationship with a covert narcissist, and everyone's like, why are you being so hard on him or her? You know, what, well, come on, like cut. And there's a lot of gaslighting by other people that happens in these relationships where,
Right.
especially when it's careening towards a divorce. So
Yes.
it's definitely a very, very toxic dynamic. So when a person is in a divorce or in any form of negotiation with a covert narcissist, then what?
Well, it's the same,
It's the
kind,
same
of thing
kind of
that
thing.
you're going to have the same sort of thing. I mean, they're going to probably obstruct you. They're, you know, they're not going to give over information. You know, they're going to put up roadblocks at every chance that they can. They're going to manipulate everything that you say, but they're just going to do it in a way that's more under the radar and harder for you to bring to people's attention, because when you bring what they're doing to people's attention, it's the kind of thing where people go, well, that's not that bad. Or that was probably just a mistake.
Yes, exactly. Gaslighting.
Yes, exactly. So, you know, whereas an overt narcissist or the grandiose narcissist,
You can see it.
It's much more manipulative. You can actually see it right in the email chain. It's easier to follow the email chain and go, well, okay, here you go.
Would you argue maybe it's a different form of manipulation? Because I think passive aggressiveness is at its core manipulation, right?
100%.
It's the attempt of, maybe it's not even an active attempt, but it is the induction of negative emotion in another person, typically guilt, to mobilize action on their part, not because the other person wants to do something, but they're doing it to stave off this sense of guilt.
And it's absolutely just as traumatic for the victim.
Yes. Yeah,
100%.
manipulation's manipulation. I mean, I don't care if it's in your face, I don't care if it's through a passive aggressive back door, it definitely leaves people sort of reeling. So this takes us then to one last form of narcissism I want to get to, because I think it's worth mentioning because it's more dangerous, which is malignant narcissism. There are researchers out there that view malignant narcissism as sort of like that space in the middle where more of a grandiose narcissistic style meets like a low-grade psychopathy, meets this sort of really Machiavellian, manipulative, political, like, you know, very skilled, working other people's style. Malignant narcissists are where we're going to see your CEO types, we're going to see your world leader types, we're going to see people at the top who are able to charm you, then go chew someone else out, then go destroy someone else's life, and then go charm someone else. Like their ability to just sort of do that leaves everyone confused, and they've usually charmed the right people, including people like judges. They're that good. Whereas the covert narcissist ain't charming anyone. You know, even the grandiose narcissist gets a little bit nervous during a divorce. A malignant narcissist is very cool under stress.
Yeah, it's harder to get them unglued.
Yes, it is. It is, and they can be dangerous. I mean, we have been talking about, you know, negotiating a divorce thus far from a perspective of, you know, not from a violence perspective. Now, remember, abuse in a relationship can take many forms. The majority of clients I work with are dealing with severe psychological abuse, which to me is every bit, perhaps even more traumatic than physical abuse. And it also
100%.
includes things like stalking, coercive control,
Well, they have
financial
no
abuse.
boundaries.
Yeah, so all that thing, the financial, the control, all of it, it is like it's a disease that overtakes the person, and they realize they're literally living in a prison when they're in a relationship with a malignant narcissist. It can escalate to danger, and in the cases I've consulted on where a person's divorcing a malignant narcissist, we have to come up with a safety plan. And that's where I've worked with people who have expertise in domestic violence on having a go bag and how do you set that up and how do you, I mean, we're teaching people to clear out the search histories on computers and stuff. I mean, in the electronic age, in some ways,
also save
it's
the
hard.
things that they need to save.
Save what you need to save. Clear out what you don't want to do. Go to libraries,
Change
use
your
other computers,
passwords. I
change
tell
your
people
passwords.
that all the time.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, this is a different territory. Is there any other thoughts when you're negotiating with someone who, if not full on dangerous, like going to really do physical harm to you, is always menacing? They send that menacing email. There's something almost stalky about them. It doesn't relent. Emails at 3 in the morning. I mean, these are the clients I work with who are the most wrecked. I mean, they are in a post-traumatic stress state almost all of the time.
Yeah, and they have no boundaries. So, I mean, they'll just show up at your house. They'll do whatever they need to do, whatever they want to do. So, first of all, let me just say, and I tell my clients this all the time, if you feel that you are in danger, please call the police. don't call your lawyer. Your lawyer can't do anything right away. So, a lot of times I hear people saying, how is he or she getting away with this? And it's
I hear it all the time.
very common thing. And so let me just inject reality into that statement really briefly. And that is that there are no divorce fairies that linger around people's houses and come jumping out of the wall when somebody misbehaves.
Exactly right.
So how are they getting away with this? Remember, the only person that has any power over anyone else in our society is the judge. That is it. There's law enforcement if you break the law. If you do something criminal, you can call the police. Other than that, it's the judge. Those are the only avenues of getting someone to behave. That's it. So when you're dealing with somebody who is menacing and maybe unsafe or stalking, then you have to call the police, because most states, in order to get any kind of an injunction, so if you want to get some kind of injunction against the person, or I guess in regular word terms it's a restraining order or something like that, you have to be able to show that you're in danger. You have to be able to show, you can't just say, I'm scared of this person, because this person has civil rights, they have constitutional rights, they have to have notice and opportunity to be heard and all of that sort of thing. And so call the police if you think that you're in danger. It will only help you get that restraining order down the road if you decide that that's what you want. The worst possible thing that you can do is go try to get a restraining order and then it doesn't stick, because now the person feels empowered. So you have to be really, really careful about making sure that if you're going to go that route, that it's going to stick and you're going to get it.
But also, let's warn people that once you get a restraining order, the likelihood of violence skyrockets.
Well, because they're
Yes, but that's the reality check. I don't want people to think restraining orders are an answer. I think they're a step, but they're a step that put people in danger, and that's the nature of how our system works. So I think to say that, I mean, the number of people, at least the number
I have a lot of people ask about them. So the only other path is some kind of a civil order, which would be, exclusive occupancy of your house or something like that. And, those things you can get, but they take time.
Yes, they do.
So you have to, what the lawyer's power is to file a motion, set the motion for hearing in front of the judge. Then, and all the judges are very backed up. The judicial system is extremely backlogged. And so it takes a while to get a hearing.
Yes, it does.
And then once you get that hearing, newsflash, the judges don't always rule right away, which is really frustrating too. And so sometimes you're waiting weeks, months. I've even waited months for an order from that judge. So how is he or she getting away with this? Well, the only way you can rein in the behavior is by creating enough leverage in order to get that person to come to a table and potentially have a resolution with you, or get enough leverage that you can convince the judge to order things to go your way.
Right, which is hard. And again, in the populations I deal with, I deal with the people where things didn't go their way, and too many women who are beaten up or killed because the restraining order came that inflamed the violence. It's a nice idea, and law enforcement has more leverage. So it really opens up this whole issue of, these are complicated issues. And in the bottom line, and I think one of the most painful things I've heard is the number of clients who've worked with me who've said, this person is a bad person, they should not be raising these kids. And again, it's usually not even the money piece. And they'll still be upset. I don't know how you expect me to do all this with this little bit of money, but how can you let this person half the time raise children? And I'm telling you, as somebody who's worked with these families, I have seen the majority of narcissists I've worked with got 50% custody.
Yeah, because
50% custody.
Yeah.
And let me tell you this, there's no happy ending to this. Children are destroyed.
Well, here's what happens a lot of times in the negotiation for that, and especially in states where child support is tied to time sharing.
Yes.
Which a lot of states it is. Some states it's not, but most states it is. And so what they do, especially if they're the moneyed spouse, is they go for time sharing, because then they pay less in child support.
That's right.
And a lot of times though, they end up not taking it, which means that the non-moneyed spouse isn't getting the full amount of support,
and still with the kids.
They have the kids
yes,
all the time.
right. Which
you know?
again, I understand what you're saying, that this is a right of the child, but I always advise clients, I say, anytime they try to blow you off, and blow off the kids. Like, they got the kids 50% of the time, so they didn't have to give you the money. That's why they fought for it. They didn't want the kids. They wanted the money, okay?
But
now,
it is also, though, the facade of I got my kids 50% of the time. Because they don't want to tell the world that they didn't want their kids.
Right, they don't want to tell the world, but they don't want their kids.
No, but they want the show that they got 50%.
Right, so after the show is proven, and they can walk around saying they want 50%, they're always trying to foist the kids on the other partner, 100%. To which I tell the other partner, who's usually the one I'm working with, take them. They're like, but this is unjust. I'm like, this whole thing is unjust. Didn't you say you want to be with your kids 100% of the time? Anytime they give them, take them, because the less time those kids are spending with the narcissistic parent, probably the healthier for your kids. Now, what does end up happening is that they're not often getting the requisite additional money that more time would take. They figure it out. But I'd say if you can get the time with your kids, get the time with your kids.
Okay, so a little strategy here as far as during a divorce. If the divorce is taking several months, which a lot of them do, then give the narcissist 50% of the time during the temporary period, because you will give them rope to hang themselves that way. Because then by the time you get to that final hearing or you get to the mediation, you've now kept a log, which I tell everybody, keep a log.
Oh, so do I. Yes,
so you've now kept a log that shows that this person showed up late, didn't take them, asked you to take them, blah, 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 because they can't help being themselves. They're not going to take the kids 50% of the time, even during that 9-month or 1-year period. You will have lots and lots of times that they asked to change the schedule. They showed up late, blah, blah, blah. And so now you have that leverage. Now you have the information that you need in order to push for the custody arrangement that you want.
Okay, it's a great point. I mean, again, we probably talked for 17 hours on this because we've seen it from both sides of it, and it is interesting, like, you know, to watch that. I say exactly that is you have to keep the most detailed log. I said it's almost like you're keeping records and charts the way a physician would, like you know, days, hours, you
I've
name
won
it.
entire cases on those.
Yeah, yes, I'm sure that's good, and I hope you heard that. She's won entire cases on those. You can't do this after the fact. You have to do this in real time. You're not going to be able to even construct it a week later. In real time, it has to become a daily practice that you're logging this stuff. It's difficult, it's painful, it's uncomfortable. You must do it. It's part of your healing, but it's also part of your strategy.
Just open a notes thing in your calendar or your phone, or use an app. There are apps just for taking notes for that. I mean, so just get into the habit of logging it real time.